Okay, so I read, First Kings, and it was, like, pretty interesting, and I really enjoyed it. It started off, when King David was, like, really, really old, and, I'm pretty sure, his son, Adonijah, thought that he was going to become king, so he started, like, throwing parties and everything, and, David finds out that Adonijah is doing that, and so he has some guy come and rebuke him, and then Adonijah dies, and then he makes Solomon king, because he already promised him that he would. And then the next chapter, it just starts, it sets the stage for Solomon's rule, and David gives Solomon instructions on, like, what he needs to do, and, like, what he should, like, who he should execute and stuff, in his first few years of reign. And the next chapter is really important. In this chapter, this is when David requests wisdom from God, and he also gets married to Pharaoh's daughter. And also in this, he gets to use his wisdom, and it's like when the two ladies who both have sons, one like rolls over her son, and then she steals the other, and they go to Solomon, and they say, like, this lady stole my son because hers died, and then he says to cut it in half, and then the lady whose it actually was says, like, no, don't kill it, and then he says to her, then you're the rightful mother, because only the rightful mother would care about her child that much. And so that's pretty much what happens there. The next chapter is, like, kind of boring. It just talks about, like, all of his elected officials and and how, like, prosperous Judah and Israel were during his rule, because God favored him. And then what happens next is, like, Solomon prepares to build a temple in the name of God, and then he just thanks God for all that he has and stuff, and that he has no enemies, because he's surrounded by, like, allies and no one that actually hates him. And then in the next chapter, Solomon finishes building the temple, and it took 2 months to build the temple, I think, and that's, like, a really short time to build this full temple, because he had, like, tons of guys from, like, 3 different lands helping him. And it describes, like, how big, like, how many cubits each part of the temple was and stuff. And then it talks about all the other great buildings and stuff that Solomon built during his rule. And it talks about his craftsmen, Hiram, I think his name is, or Hiram. And he's, like, the bronzesmith, and he, like, makes all the pillars and, like, all the cool, like, gold and bronze stuff. And so it just describes, like, some of the cool stuff that he made. The next chapter, Solomon brings the Ark of the Covenant into the temple, he gives, like, a big speech to everyone and, like, thanks them for helping build the temple. And then he does a dedication of the temple to God. And then after he prayed over everything, he blesses everything, like the whole assembly. And then, he dedicates it to God. And he sacrifices 22,000 bulls and 120,000 sheep to the temple. And the next chapter, God appears to Solomon in a dream, and God tells him that there's, like, always going to be a king in Israel, like, that comes from his line, as long as Solomon or one of his sons doesn't like disobey God or anything. But then Solomon, he was like kind of like St. Augustine. He was like really got caught up in the world and women and stuff, and so he kind of turned his heart away from God, having over 700 wives and 300 concubines. So that really strayed him away from God. And then after that, God gets kind of mad, and so he starts giving Solomon like he has enemies, and all these guys start like turning against him. And there's like, and then it just describes who his enemies were and why they were. And I thought one of them was pretty interesting because one of them was this guy who lived in, he was like an Edomite, and Solomon went into Edom and killed every guy who lived there. And I don't really know why he did that, but it just says he did. And so this guy, he just got really mad and made all these rogues, and they went against Solomon and stayed in Egypt. And then it talks about like who ruled in Israel and like for like a really long time, because Solomon dies. And then it gets into Elijah and like at the end, and so it just talks about all the miracles that Elijah did, how he like proclaims that there's going to be a drought and stuff, and like stuff like that. And then Ahab dies because Ahab dies because he was like really evil, and so God like told him that he was gonna die. And so kind of what happened was Ahab and his like priesty dude or whatever, they switched clothes, and so his like right hand man or something had the king's clothes on and went outside, and there's like this whole like big army, and they were like, don't kill anyone but the king of Israel, and that was Ahab at the time. And so they found his like little servant guy, and they were chasing him, and then the guy cried out and was like, I'm not the king, I'm not the king. And then they're like, oh, okay. And so they couldn't find Ahab, and it just says in the Bible that there was like a stray arrow, and it hit Ahab right in between the joints in his armor. So he looked like all the other soldiers, and there's just a stray arrow that killed him. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then it just says that Ahab's son rules, and that he was like really evil, just like his father and mother were, and that's how it ends.